everyone, here's your favorite artist, and today I'm going to show you my unconventional art tips. These are art tips that I personally haven't seen other artists in these art tip videos talk about. So while I give you these art tips, you're going to see me draw and use watercolor to paint Sabrina Carpenter in her outfits of this short and sweet tour. So yeah, hope you enjoy it. So a very unconventional art tip is not to practice. I would say don't draw every day, don't practice every day, because not all practice is gonna improve your art. It is true that the more you do it, you're going to get better, but it's not going to necessarily improve your art as quickly unless you do good practice. And this is what happened to me. I would draw so much, but I wouldn't use or I wouldn't do certain things or study certain things to make my art better. So yeah, I drew every day and I drew a lot and I have a lot of sketchbooks and I have a lot of drawings, but I wasn't improving and I wasn't improving that quickly. My art wasn't looking a lot better because I was doing this. Yeah, I just drew because I loved drawing and I drew it all the time, but I didn't get better. But if you want to get better, I would say not that practice is not that important. How often you do it and how much you do it is not that important, but the quality of what you're doing. Which doesn't mean that every piece of art that you do has to be perfect and has to be worthy of hanging. But what I mean with this is that the practice has to be thoughtful. What I would recommend is, because what I did was that I would draw from memory, I would draw from imagination, and I will draw the same thing over and over again because it's what I like drawing. But at some point I would get like, oh, I don't like my drawings, or my drawings are not getting better, I'm not satisfied with how they look. And I thought that because I was doing it so often and I was practicing so much, that was just gonna get better because of that. But that's not true. You're not gonna get better just because you practice. You have to do smart practicing. So it is true that the more I painted realistically, that helped me improve my art, improve in many ways, not only in realistic art, but also in my observational skills and all of that. So in that way, yeah, like practicing every day helped me, but it only helped me because I was doing good practice, where I was practicing from real life. Or if you practice from references, and or you practice from other people's art, or you practice anatomy by copying poses and stuff like that, then yes, you're going to get better. And the more you do it and the more you practice, the better you're gonna get. But if it's just if the advice is just to draw every day and practice every day, that's not gonna work. You're not gonna get better just because you do that. You have to make it mindful and demure. No, I'm joking. You have to make it work for you and actually improve, but it doesn't have to be in a way that is boring, or it's like, oh, I just want to draw, I don't want to have to think about getting better at anatomy, or I don't want to think about getting better at my use of color. You can do it in such a way that you're practicing and learning, but also having fun and doing it just for fun. But it's hard to explain it because whatever is going to work for you is very different for what it works for me. So like, I love doing realistic portraits with gouache. So the more realistic portraits that I do with gouache, the better I get at it. The more I draw girls from imagination, it doesn't make me better at drawing girls from imagination, it doesn't make me better at drawing girls, but drawing from references and drawing poses and drawing from other artists and stuff like that, that does improve my art. So I don't know if that makes sense. I hope it does. What I mean by this tip is that not all practice and not drawing every day is going to make you draw better. You have to be thoughtful with what you're drawing and how you're doing it. The first one is to observe. Observing is really, really important. And what I mean by observing is to observe other people's art and see, oh, this shadow is light blue. How can a shadow be light blue? How did this person achieve a shadow with light blue? Or observe reality and realize, oh, this shadow has a bit more purple or has a bit more red in it, which you wouldn't expect. Also observe reality in shapes that are under objects, which is one of the bases of art, to see the shapes underneath the objects in order to draw them. But we will get into that later on. The next one is to copy. I've already talked about this in my last video, but copying is very important. Copying other artists' work, even copying things in a style that you don't like. It's very important for you to become better at observing, become better at being able to draw what you see and draw in a way that helps you draw in a way that you've never done before. So yeah, copying is very important. Also copying reality, making realistic art, even if realistic art is not the thing that you're interested in, it's very important for you to learn, again, to observe and to know how shadows work, how things are placed, and then obviously you can make your own. If you realize, oh, eyes usually have one eye apart from each other, how can I make that my own and create it in my own? Perhaps you may make the eyes farther apart or closer, depending on how you want your art to look. Copying, it's very important for you to become better copying poses, copy everything. Obviously, then you have to make your own, and I don't even feel like I have to say this, but obviously don't post it, don't sell it, don't claim it as your own, unless you make it your own, unless you change things up so it's yours. Do not do that, obviously. The next tip is line variation. I've also talked about this in my last video, and I'm going to include in this one line variation and color. So making the line art colorful with colors improves your art and makes your art so much nicer in such a small step. Line variation is one of the most important ones to make your art look professional. Basically, line variation is making your lines thicker in certain parts, thinner in other parts, thicker usually when there's a shadow or when two lines connect, and thinner in the other parts. But there has to be a little bit of a pattern. If you do it randomly, it's still gonna look somewhat nice, but if you do it with a pattern and if you do it with thought behind it, it's gonna look 10 times better. And also do it colorful. So when it comes to colors, the thing that I do, I know there's tips on how to do it digitally, but usually what I do is choose a color that's a bit darker than the darkest color of that base. So if the shadow is a bit purpley, it would be a color similar to the shadow. But I think you can play around with that a little bit more, and going back to the tip before, copy other artists, see what color line art they are doing and what colors they're using to make it look even nicer. The next tip is to mix paint in order to learn colors and how to create new colors, what colors make what colors. This is a very good tip for learning color theories, somewhat color theory. But yeah, you learn that by mixing a bit more blue, this comes out more purple or something like that. And then you are able to look at something and see, oh, this shadow is a bit more greenish. How could I achieve that? Or I have to add a bit of yellow, or I have to add a bit of blue. And this is something that it's going to be a lot easier if you've learned it from doing it with acrylic, gouache, watercolor. One of the tips that I've learned this year as well is, in order to create beautiful sketchbook spreads, a very easy way is by making it unified, so it looks like a spread, so the two pages match, either by using the same color in the background for both pages or for the whole spread, or using stars or whatever decoration to make it seem together. Also by using maybe the same two colors in the background or things like that, or the same pattern, the same things that you can draw under the sketches themselves. Not under, but like behind the sketches and in the blank spaces of the sketchbook, to make it look of a spread together, even though there might be drawings that have nothing to do with each other. But doing that helps it look more cohesive, helps it look, you've thought it out, just random sketches, but in order to make it look better, you can unify it by using the same color in the same spread, or the same shapes, like stars or circles, whatever you like. Another tip is to use shapes in order to place things. One of the things that I realized that I do wrong when I copy from reality or when I'm drawing spaces is that I place things wrong. So I will be drawing something and then draw it as I think it should be drawn, and then I realized that I placed, for instance, a chair way further than the other chair when it was a lot closer. So had I drawn a circle or a square or whatever shape, in order to place it, just to know where it's supposed to go, it would have helped me not put it too far away, or placing it in the same exact place where it should be. And this happens because sometimes I do these sketches when I'm out and about, and because of that, I feel like I don't take the time to draw the under sketch, and also when you're doing it with pen, it's harder to do it, but you have to be very thin. And then goes back to the line variation. If you make the first sketch very thin and you place things by making shapes that are not even close to the shape that it's going to result in. For instance, if you're drawing a hand, just draw a circle where the hand should be, and that's going to place it, even though obviously the hand is not going to be a circle in the end. So first, very lightly with the pen, and just to place the things with random shapes, and then you sketch the shape that it should be a little bit harder, but not too hard, so it's still light. And once you have it all done, make certain lines thicker and certain lines thinner. So for instance, you can make the lines that are closer. So in a space, it's easier because there's things that are going to be closer to you and there's things that are going to be further away. In that way, you can do the ones that are closer to you with thicker lines, while the ones further away are thinner, but still there are some thicker lines and thinner lines. Thicker lines when you want to like the outline, and then like the things inside or the small details with thinner lines. But that was part of one variation, so let's go back to using shapes to place things. So yeah, just random shapes, even though it's nothing to do with how the thing that you're drawing is going to look at the end. It's very important for you to do that in order to place it and to get it right. So again, if you're drawing a face, place the nose with a circle, and then like you can see that if you make a square, that's how wide the cheek is gonna be, or something like that. And the last tip is to use other things to place other things. So what I mean by this is, for instance, in a portrait, if you're drawing a face, you can see that the eyes align with the ends of the mouth, so you can use the eye to guide where the mouth should be. Sometimes I struggle with, if I'm creating a face, I struggle with placing the things right on the first try, because I might make the chin a bit longer or make the nose a bit longer. So this is a tip that has improved my art a lot, and it's a very small thing that you can do that it really helps. So I will place the eye, and then I will see according to that eye where to place the other things, instead of doing a sketch where you think you're doing it amazing and you're placing the eyes and the nose and the mouth and the face, but then you realize, oh, the mouth is actually not close enough, or the chin has gone a little down and it's a bit too long. So in that way, it's a lot better if you place things with the other things that you placed. And that's also how I realized that I was doing it wrong, and that's why the other tip of using shapes is very important, because I would place the eyes, and then I will see that I've drawn the chair. For instance, going back to the chair example, I've drawn the chair and now the other chair is too far away, when in reality they're almost together. So I didn't do them right, because I was following what I thought I had to do and not what I was observing and what I was actually seeing, because that's something that the brain does. You don't see what you really see, and that's why paintings look like real life, because your brain puts together the parts that are perhaps not together, and so it creates this idea of, oh, it's real, when in reality it's just a painting. So that's because your brain sees something that is not really, I don't know how to explain it, but observing and seeing what is really there and not what your brain thinks. So like your brain would think, oh, the shadow is done by creating a darker color than the one in not the shadow. But actually the shadow can be created by another color, or the example that I love to give, which is the light blue shadow, it's light. Okay, that was a motorbike, which is a oh my god. Okay, let's wait for the motorbike to leave. Okay, so yeah, how can a shadow be light blue when your brain thinks that shadows have to be darker? So that's kind of what I mean. What you really see and not what your brain thinks it's seeing. And then it helps with the tip before it as well, because to place things when to place the under shapes in the places that other, like taking others, oh my goodness, I'm explaining this so badly, but like to take to take the shapes, the under shapes that are the shapes that I've talked about in the last tip, and place them according to each other. So this circle is here, this circle that is the hand is here, and then this rectangle, which is the forearm, is here. And yeah, take that into consideration. And those were my tips, my unconventional tips. I probably have more, but these are the ones that I thought about right now. This is only my second video talking like this, so I'm not completely comfortable yet, but I will get it. And I apologize if you heard background noise and if it wasn't the best quality, but I hope you enjoyed it, and see you next time. Bye. No one's more amazing. I turn your love into hatred. I won't give up about you. I won't give up about you.